Make a wish for ones with a secret. And if I manifest best, guess I'll keep it. I'll keep it. I'm sick, go with the flow, new flow. Up phones one day. Thought one, thoughts come, what's when? Yes, yes, I need it.
Welcome to Pop Culture Cuties, the podcast that blends local business with the broader pop culture. Each week, I sit down with North Georgia's movers and shakers, business owners, creatives, and industry insiders to talk about their work, their journey, and how their field connects to the broader cultural landscape. So if you love great conversation over tea and wine, then this is the place for you. This week, I'll be chatting with Hannah Brusven, editor and host of The Swish, exploring classical femininity in royal coverage, cultural commentary, and more. So welcome and thank you for joining us. Please tell our audience just a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi, everybody. Well, I am a Georgia girl at heart, first and foremost, so I'm so happy to be here with the cute North Georgian. It's just the best name, but I grew up in Atlanta, had a house in Tiger in the Clayton area, and I'm moving to Nashville now, so I'm going to be right around the corner. But now I work as the editor-in-chief of the Swish magazine, where we explore trends, traditions, and lifestyles for an elegant and inspired life. So you can check us out on Instagram, on YouTube. I talk about the royals, as you said, also cultural commentary, and so much more. We have our first spring issue of 2025, print and digital, coming out on March 4th. Oh my gosh, that's next Tuesday.
Wow.
So, yes.
It's huge.
Yeah, but thanks for having me.
Of course, I can't believe you're a Tiger girl.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I didn't, and I looked up their population last week because I was writing an article about a vineyard there. There's like 490 people there, but I guess it's 489 since you left, so.
Extremely small, but very, very sweet. Yeah, I love that area, so.
What I love about Tiger is not necessarily what's missing, but what they have. So the things that they prioritize are really interesting to me. So like there's the biscuit spot, which as you might imagine sells, biscuits. There's this massive senior citizen, kind of palatial senior citizen building. There's a vineyard and an outdoor movie theater or drive-in movie theater. And so for this town of 490 people with one stoplight, I just love the things that they felt were important to include.
I love that too. Well, next time I'm in the area, you and I are going to go to that biscuit stop and give a review. How about that?
Let's do it. It's legendary in these parts. All right. So I was recently looking at your YouTube channel, and in your video, it's called Modern Feminism is Dying. Here's Why. And the caption reads, young women today are caught between mainstream media's feminist marketing and mixed messages of what it means to be a woman. And that resonated with me because for so long, femininity seemed to be defined by how well women could emulate men, right? Where equality meant kind of adopting traditional masculine traits. And at the same time, we've also recently witnessed what feels like kind of the unraveling of the trad wife movement, with several influencers exposed as frauds and fabrications. And this leaves many women searching for a more authentic expression of femininity. And that brings me to what you do and the style that speaks to, I think, both of us, which is classical femininity. So how would you define classical femininity? And is that kind of the medium option? What does it mean to be classically feminine?
Classical femininity, as I've put it, is both the preservation and the reflection of truth, goodness, and beauty in womanhood. And that leaves a lot of room for us to stand in our own aesthetics, as you mentioned with the trad wives, with our own hobbies. It doesn't mean that we are one particular way to do womanhood, but we believe that there is truth to what it means to be a woman. It's not up to just your own interpretation of it or trying to combat men for a definition. So it's actually the Platonic ideals of truth, goodness, and beauty. If you've ever studied Plato, but they're transcendent, divine ordeals actually, as to what it means to convey truth in what it means to be a woman in the way that I've applied it, goodness in pursuing that which is good, and then beautiful. There is an aesthetic element to it. So I guess I'm just going right into philosophy here.
No, that's great.
I think that there's something in all of us that desires the feminine as women, that is deeper than just the bows and the frills, which I love, I adore, I love the pink. But I've always wondered what exactly that looks like. I was enthralled growing up with Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly. You know, Catherine, Princess of Wales is probably one of the greatest inspirations in my life. But I didn't really understand what it was that made them so captivating. And so I kind of set out on a journey to try to understand exactly what it was. And I've come to the conclusion that it is their classical femininity that's rooted in a real kind of elegance. Because for so long we valued aesthetics over values. But as you mentioned, I think the world is turning away from that and really pursuing our values once again, instead of just defining us by our aesthetics.
Right. And you touched on truth and beauty. And so often, I think one of the reasons actually that the trad wife movement, that aesthetic caught on, was because people were seeking beauty, and by seeking beauty, you seek truth. And so much of culture, be it architecture, be it fashion, for so long was quite ugly. And almost by seeking beauty, you do seek truth, and perhaps that's why the trad life movement ultimately failed, because there just wasn't a lot of truth in it. It was all beauty. I don't know, waxing philosophical, probably sound a little bit like Jaden Pinkett Smith, but no, you got me thinking. So
a good version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does it not mean to live classically?
That is a great question. Well, so in my pursuit of elegance, and trying to understand what that meant, I came across this book by Matthew E. May called In Pursuit of Elegance, Why the Best Things Have Something Missing. And I started reading it. It's a book about Toyota, believe it or not, but I was reading it for a business that I was working on at the time, and I started categorizing it to be about womanhood. And his study of why Toyota makes cars so efficiently was because of four things: symmetry, subtraction, sustainability, and seduction. You'll see where I'm coming back to answer your question in just a moment. But those four things, I realized, actually are the foundation of classical femininity. Symmetry, meaning that you are aligned with your core values. You are who you are. You're very authentic. Subtraction, you're strategic about not only what you wear, but how you articulate yourself and what comes out of your mouth. So that could be arranged from everything from modesty to the way that you speak eloquently. Sustainability, that doesn't just have to mean Green New Deal stuff, if that's your thing. That really just means timelessness, things that are enduring, investing in things that matter and that are long-term. And then finally, seduction. And that doesn't have to mean that it has anything to do with what you typically think of with seduction. It just means that there's something interesting about you and engaging. So symmetry, subtraction, sustainability, and seduction. So if you are somebody who is not authentic to who you are, you're not rooted in core values, and those aren't lived out in your everyday. If you are giving everything away and showing everything off, then that is not elegant. And
it's not sustainable.
Exactly. Sustainability, that's the third one. If you don't care about things that are timeless, and that's why fast fashion is not classically feminine. If you are just kind of jumping on trends, so that's why classically feminine women often are not super engaged in trends. And then seduction, that there's nothing interesting about you, then there's nothing that is going to make you classically feminine. So of course it's strategy, it's engaging, but I think that it's a very fascinating take on why we find the elegant, timeless women that we all know and love to be so interesting and engaging and timeless, because they embrace classical femininity. So those are some ways I think people would not be, but it all really comes down to be rooted in what are your values and are you authentic to them.
So you're saying it's more than a really good sourdough recipe?
I think so. I think so. I think, you know, I talk a lot about Meghan Markle, and you probably have some questions
I do.
about that on here.
One or two.
So I might jump ahead, but one of the reasons why I think she's gotten so much pushback, and we all probably seen her Netflix trailer, is because she's not embracing that classically feminine understanding of what it means to be symmetrical to your values. Because on the one hand, she's making sourdough or whatever it is on her new cooking show, but she's also not speaking to the rest of her family and calling them all racist and then saying that this is her perfect, authentic life. So I think she's such an interesting model of what aesthetics can look like, but without those values lived out, there is a real big question mark around that.
Yeah, that's beautifully articulated. And Meghan Markle seems to be, you know, the prime example of someone kind of caught in this cultural shift that we mentioned earlier, you know, struggling to find a consistent public image. She oscillates between like the feminist girl boss persona, but then she's made a recent attempt to embrace the lifestyle influencer aesthetic, kind of similar to Emma, Marchioness of Bath, as seen in her now delayed Netflix project. But from a public relations perspective, how do you view Meghan Markle's strategy? And if you were advising her, what direction would you suggest that she take?
I love that question because I've given it a lot of thought. I think it would be fascinating to sit down and have a conversation with Meghan. Maybe one day I'll get to do that. We'll see. But I think that she is, like you said, such a fascinating example of, as it's been put, failing every time she possibly could, and making all the wrong decisions when it comes to these things. So if I were to give her any advice and to look at her PR strategy, she needs to be consistent about what message she's putting forward. And a lot of that has to do with the way that she presents herself, very, very rooted back to who she even says it, that she was in the royal family, the way that she's spoken poorly of them, the way that she has dragged not only her husband's family, but her own family. So I would advise her to give some positive press around the royal family, to stop talking about them as much as she could. But also, I think that she and Harry should move to South Africa. I think if she's really invested in wanting to, as she said, care about these philanthropic causes, then she and Harry should go to South Africa. They have great holds there. It's a Commonwealth country, and they should revive a new reputation for themselves, and maybe not even engage in the press. I think the more that she creates these shows and these brands, she's actually leaning into the worst side of herself. And I will say there are some really positive things about her, but the things that she's chosen to reinforce and monetize are not the best look for her. So there's a lot of advice that I would love to give her, but I think the first thing is to recognize that the press is always going to compare her to the royal family. She can't get away from that, but also embrace classical femininity and go to South Africa.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, she just needs to give it time. Everybody can have a comeback. I mean, if Roman Polanski can have a comeback, everybody can have a comeback. And when she comes back, part of me just thinks she should be kind of the butt of the joke for a little bit. Like, she should kind of maybe tease like who she used to be, you know, or just go in the complete opposite direction and just be Gwyneth Paltrow or Paris Hilton and just, this is who I am.
Absolutely. You know,
I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, either one would suggest authenticity. So like if you're willing to like go on SNL and allow them to tease you and you just roll with the punches, you know, that's authenticity. But also if, you know, you just say, this is who I am this person, and I don't care, like Gwyneth Paltrow, then you just it's part of your identity. So, yeah. And people accept them. I mean, at first, Gwyneth Paltrow, there's a big backlash against her brand and the way she presents herself. She presents herself as an out-of-touch celebrity. Like, she knows she's an out-of-touch celebrity, but she doesn't care. And so other people don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said with Paris Hilton, just embrace that lifestyle. I think the problem with Harry and Meghan is, on the one hand, they want to live in a $14 million mansion with, I think it's 13 bathrooms. And on the other hand, say that their entire life's work is for the common man. So, we see this in politics too. It's a
Yeah.
strange juxtaposition. So they either need to come down, and especially when you compare Harry and Meghan to William and Catherine, who are just the most down to earth people. It is a real strange combination. So
It is. And it just opens itself up to comparisons. Do you
yes.
think that her career is salvageable?
I believe that time heals all wounds. I think we've seen all kinds of strange people go away for a while and come back. I think in the long run, if she were to admit some flaws, if she were to truly be authentic, if she were to reflect on the wonderful time that she did have in the royal family and be grateful for the opportunities that she's been given, and maybe go away for a while and come back, I think that people could potentially give her a chance if she is truly authentic in that remorse. I don't know that she has as great of a chance at that as Harry does, though. I think people are much more open to welcoming Harry back into the fold than Meghan, because truly the things that she said and the attitude that she's had towards one of the greatest institutions in the world historically, and that's a loaded word, greatest, but in terms of their influence,
Sure.
that is, it's remarkable the way that she has interacted with the role that she's been given.
Yeah. And, Harry, he's always, people do forgive Harry.
Yes.
They forgave him for the Nazi costume. They forgive him. He has a way of winning hearts and minds eventually. So I agree. I do think eventually, especially with Harry's charm, I think that they'll be able to make a comeback. Again, if Roman Polanski can do it, anybody can. So
Yep.
now, many women who strive for a more balanced and classical lifestyle, they often look to the past for inspiration. So figures like Jane Austen, or her heroines like Elizabeth Bennet, Fanny Price, or even later icons like Grace Kelly. However, there are also modern examples, such as, Catherine, Duchess of Wales, and potentially for, Gen A, there's Princess Charlotte, who embody these ideas. In your view, what qualities make a woman a timeless role model? And I guess that actually goes into the will you repeat that again? It was so good.
Yeah. The principles of elegance.
Yes.
Yeah. So classical femininity, I believe, is made up of 4 principles. The first is symmetry, meaning you're rooted in your core values. Subtraction, you're strategic with what you show and what you say. Sustainability, meaning you're investing in timeless things. And then seduction, there's something interesting about you. So the thing about it that I've really struggled with, I think, to get to the heart of your question, is that you have to come face to face with the fact that nobody's perfect. And it's so easy to talk about Catherine because she just seems to be, the perfect hostess, the perfect princess, the perfect woman. But, we're all human, and there's things that we don't know about her. And that actually is the elegance principle of subtraction. She doesn't even give us room to criticize her because she's utilizing those things. So when I've been trying to look for examples in modern pop culture to understand who women should look towards, you're always going to find a flaw with somebody. You're always going to find something. But I think if you are if your foundation is in those 4 things, then you've got a pretty good shot at doing well.
Right. And I guess in the broader culture, is there anyone in our modern culture whom you would suggest as a potential classical femininity icon?
Yes. I mean, Catherine obviously is the first one that comes to mind. For younger women, recently, I've been really impressed with Zendaya. There's a lot
Mm.
I do not agree with her on. And I think sometimes she walks the line of the elegance principle of subtraction when it comes to her fashion. But I think we're beginning to see a new generation of young women who are wanting to embrace classical femininity and their values. One thing I love about her is she does a really good job at both the elegance principle of symmetry, meaning she's rooted in those values, but also subtraction. I mean, she's very, very private. Her whole goal is to get married and have kids and then retire from acting so she can be home with them. And, you know, she's engaged to Tom Holland now. So I love watching her trajectory because I think she's done an excellent job of being in the public eye. So that's one person. Like I said, I don't agree with everything she does, but I don't agree with everybody about everything either. So I think she's probably for young women a great example that comes to mind. You know, I used to say that Blake Lively
Yes,
was.
I did too. So disappointing.
I used to love her. That definitely has changed, and I think it's a great example of where our culture prioritizes aesthetics over values time and time again. And we should have all seen this coming. And I certainly missed it.
I did too. You know, I thought she had this Instagram worthy marriage with Ryan Reynolds. She has all of those kids. You know, she puts pictures of herself out there gardening. And again, you know, that does tie into what we talked about earlier about the superficiality and the aesthetics of being a lady versus the lived experience. And there were whispers, you know, I'd heard that she had her feuds, that she had, you know, there were accusations of bullying, but of course, with notable people, there are always going to be criticisms, and I was kind of happy to ignore them. But as you said, you know, eventually, if you're not living by the values, then it does, you know, it comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I would just encourage anybody who's listening or wanting to learn more about it to just analyze these public figures through that lens of those four things, and you'll begin to spot who is embracing classical femininity or not. It's especially fun because it's award season and looking at all these styles on the red carpet makes it real fun.
Oh, absolutely. And you and I, we connected virtually over our shared love of hairbows, which in honor of our conversation, I'm wearing my second favorite hairbow. I lost my first favorite, I realized today, so sadly it's only the second best, but it was our admiration, I think, of Catherine, Duchess of Wales, where we really connected, and I can honestly say that some of my best pieces of my maternity wardrobe came from the same place Catherine shopped for hers, and I know that she's been a personal influence on you as well. So, but you've really kind of answered this. What is it about Catherine that has so captivated the hearts and minds of the British people and the wider Western world? So I'm going to change that question, and I'm going to ask, have you at all been inspired by Catherine's wardrobe?
Oh my goodness. Yes, and lately, I'll mention just yesterday, Catherine was at a bakery in Wales, and she pulled out a coat from her closet that we hadn't seen since 2007. Mind you, that is 4 years before she joined the royal family. So this girl knows how to rewear and invest in timeless things. And so I wish I had a picture of the outfit. It's just extraordinarily British. But no, I think there's so many things to say. And by the way, I have a 5-day Princess Catherine challenge that anybody should go through. It just sends you an email every day of something you can learn about how to be more like Catherine. But I think her ability to rework items and have them be so timeless. You know, it's not like she's wearing the latest trends or like these Hollywood celebrities do. She's making stuff work from 20 years ago almost, be in style again. So I think that's been a really big inspiration to me. Also, the way that Catherine stands and the way that she holds herself. Sometimes when I get very nervous, when I'm about to give a speech or about to do an interview or something, I think, what would Catherine say in this situation? I think we want bracelets to say, what would Jesus do? Maybe we need one. This is what would Catherine do to get some confidence. But she stands with her hands. Let me see if I can put my phone down here. She has this funny little hand gesture that she does where she kind of goes like this. Have you noticed this in photos? So she kind of puts both of her, okay, hold on, my phone might go down a little bit, but she puts her hands like this.
Okay.
And she holds it towards her navel. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna stop acting that out. You can't even see me. She puts them together in a very polite manner, and sometimes just holding yourself like that is extremely powerful to give you confidence. And so that's one thing I've learned, that even no matter what you're wearing, you could wear something that's a paper sack, and if you have the confidence and the ability and the warmth to welcome others, then it's a total look. You wear the dress sometimes, not the dress wearing you.
Oh, that's really well put. And Hannah, you're the editor of the Swish, which has grown into a digital magazine, a YouTube channel with 14,000 subscribers, and soon a quarterly print edition. Can you take us back to kind of the beginning of the Swish? How did it come to be, and what's that journey been like to get to where you are today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was in college. It was 2018, and I was really struck by the way that my friends were dressing in college. And I mean that in the nicest way, but I found that the college environment was not conducive to elegance. And I really wanted to explore, as I mentioned earlier, what that actually meant and what it was like to be elegant. So in 2018, I just started a little blog talking about my perspectives on timeless elegance. I think that originally Swish was called Reclassified, because I was trying to be like reclassic.
Clever.
Yeah. And so I ended up renaming it to the Swish, which is the sound that a skirt makes when you twirl it around, which is the iconic feminine icon, women in dresses. So I renamed it to that about a year later, but I just kept writing. And then I ended up working in the media world, got into politics, worked for a broadcasting company, and I just learned a lot more. Did a little bit of it on the side, but then about a year ago, I just really felt like the culture was shifting. And you alluded to this a little while ago, but we'd seen the rise of the trad wives. I think a lot of people hopped on that because they loved the aesthetics of it. We saw that kind of fall away. We'd seen the boss babe culture fade away several years ago. So there's all these things that women were trying to pursue, but I felt like the classical angle was so unique and different to help women understand what their true strengths are and how your femininity can be a superpower. So about a year ago, I just went all in. I started posting to the YouTube channel. We have put articles on the website, and then about 6 months ago, we brought on guest contributors. I have a team of people that help me, and we're just doing it now. So we decided to bring out a print edition of the Swish magazine, which, let me go grab it. I want to show you a version of it, Carly.
Oh, please. I'm so excited.
Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, right here. It is a total labor of love. These things are difficult to pull off, but oh my goodness, once it's done, it is so beautiful. Here, let me see if you can see this. I've been, trying to figure out how to teach myself how to do this. So shout out to Kate Kirby if you're watching this. She's the editor-in-chief of Tool Magazine and Mini Magazine. She really helped me with this. But here is the print edition. It's 62 pages.
Really good.
And I don't know if you can see this.
I can't see it, unfortunately. 62 pages, though. That's lengthy.
And you can go on my Instagram, the Swish Magazine, and see the cover and see some insights into here. But it is a beautiful I believe, I'm biased, but I believe that it's a really beautiful addition to women's media. And that it's different on the market. There's a lot of people that have lifestyle content, which is fantastic. And a lot of what I do is lifestyle, but I think that it's something that includes those things, but also a little bit more as well. So.
Oh my gosh, I see it. I went on Instagram to look. It is beautiful. It is so glamorous.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Thank you.
really impressive. I cannot wait to get my edition. That is so cool.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
all
digital.
of your things are so high quality. You know, you have, for those that are tuned in, this is Hannah Brusven from the Swish, for those that have just joined. And if you like lifestyle content, especially like visual and audio content, you have to look at her YouTube channel because they are so well edited, so high quality. I don't know how you do it. I'm learning myself actually how to produce content like that. And how did you kind of pick that up?
Well, I've always kind of been in the media world, I suppose. I went to school originally because I wanted to be a film director. That was kind of my goal. I realized that industry is extremely corrupt. I didn't want to be a part of that. And so I ended up going into PR and journalism. That did not last very long. And I have so many stories I'll tell you behind the scenes, Carly, of being in the journalism world at a state school. But after that, I just went into marketing and advertising. But I realized that marketing is just knowing people. And that's ultimately what I have my degree in. But I think you have to know what you like and who you can emulate. So I just found people, and there's different elements of the magazine and of my content that are reflections of what I love most about the content creators that I admire. And then I've just taught myself a lot. It's been partly the industry that I've worked in for the majority of my adult life. But yeah, I've taught myself quite a lot, but also tried to get education from people that are in the field, just asking for their advice. And then I've taken several classes and courses. You know, I like to say that I went to the University of Google ultimately, because that is the best type of education you can find right now.
Well, if you have a phone, you have a career. So, and what about your content resonates with viewers? Because you have cultivated an impressive audience.
Oh, thank you. I think it's a unique angle to talk about classical femininity beyond the aesthetics. And there's a lot of channels and Instagram accounts and things like that that are focused on, you know, what is worn, what the makeup is like. But I think it's something so much deeper, and we all crave something so much deeper in culture right now. So this is something that I've just put out there, and clearly it's resonated with people, that there is a power to femininity in a culture that has demeaned it for many, many years. So I think that's caught on, and specifically looking at the juxtaposition between Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Meghan Markle, that's already a conversation. And so as much as I've learned from content creation, entering into a conversation that is currently happening and providing a unique perspective on it has been a real jump starter for me.
Right. And in media, tactics like clickbait, rage bait, public feuds, they do often drive engagement, yet you have intentionally chosen to steer clear of that approach. Why is it important to you to build your audience differently, and how does that contribute to long-term sustainability?
Yeah. Oh, Carly, that's such a great point. I've worked in the media world, and if you guys know my backstory or who I've worked with, it's very clickbaity. That was part of the reason that I moved on from that too. I believe that classical femininity is a superpower, and as we mentioned, the root of that is authenticity. So if you have a first step into a conversation with someone new on social media and you're using clickbait, rage content, then you're actually cutting yourself short before you even start. And so I've had to find an interesting middle ground of posing a question in my headlines, in my topics, without saying something that is untrue or maybe conveyed in a way that isn't necessarily true, because we need to get back to having authentic conversations. There's so much AI out there. There's so much rapidly growing automation. And so as much as we can get back to the root of who we are at a human level and having human connections and asking these deeper questions, that's going to resonate with people in the long term, I believe. And we'll see. I've done this for a year on YouTube and gained a good following. So hopefully this will continue to resonate with others as we grow.
Yeah, well, sustainability. It all leans into those 4 principles. So this is our rapid fire sequence. So we'll answer these questions in 3 to 5 words. And our first question is, would you identify or have others identified you as a teaboo?
Oh, sorry, a what?
It's called a teaboo.
What is that?
Okay, so it's a little mean. Some of my friends call me this. I prefer Anglophile. I don't even know if I like that, but
okay.
It's like, oh, all right. So for Japanese culture, they call it a weeaboo, right? If you love Japanese things, and so they changed it and made it teaboo for people that like British culture.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, it's like I had a friend call me yesterday. Sorry.
Is this a Gen Z thing? I don't know.
It might be, actually. My husband introduced it to me, and he's younger than me, and he's a Gen Zer.
Okay.
But I had a friend call me, and she's 26, and she said, I bought you this book on Henry VIII because I know you're a teaboo.
Oh, well, by that definition, I definitely am.
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, it feels a little off, but I don't know. Maybe it's just, I'm 31, she's 26, and he's 29. So, these young people.
Well, I'm 26 too, but I think I'm an old lady at heart. I don't know half the phrases or anything like that. But that's funny. Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
So wait, you don't go around saying skibbity riz?
No.
Okay. I'm just teasing. What's a ridiculous hill you're willing to die on?
Ridiculous hill that I'm willing to die on. Oh my gosh, these are good questions. Is it ridiculous to say that seed oils are horrible?
No, it's not ridiculous. That's a debated topic right now.
There you go.
All right, seed oils are terrible. All right, what is the most unclassically feminine thing about you?
About me?
About you?
Put me on blast.
I know. We're getting into the. I told you we're gonna dig deep.
Okay, let's do it. The most unclassically feminine thing about me. Oh gosh, that's a hard question. 3 to 5 words.
3 to 5 words.
I guess it would be that I am. I don't know that I like to. Gosh, Carly.
Look, I'll give you one of mine.
Okay, yeah.
I like McDonald's. Okay.
Say that again.
I like McDonald's.
Oh, McDonald's.
Unabashedly. Like.
Oh, that is a good one.
10 nuggets. That's my jam right there. Unashamed lover of McDonald's.
Oh my goodness.
Even the seed oils that they put their fries in.
Oils. Gosh.
Look.
You're putting me on blast here, and I'm trying.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It could be that you just don't make sourdough.
I do make sourdough.
You do make sourdough. Gosh, there's nothing. Well, sometimes the answer is just it doesn't apply. It's just an N/A.
Oh,
so
that's a good.
No worries. Who is your favorite book? What is your favorite book or author?
Favorite book or author? I mean, Jane Austen, of course, is so classical. I love Flannery O'Connor too. I think, as a Southern girl, But also this is debatable too, but I've always been fascinated by the book Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Margaret Mitchell's actually my great aunt, so I think that probably has something to do. But yeah, I think the Vivian Leigh has been someone I've always loved, as complicated as she is. So I know that that's a movie in terms of Vivian Leigh, but the book too. I think she's a fantastic writer. Obviously, that's a debatable book, but I think it's interested me quite a bit.
I mean, indisputably, she's a fantastic writer. And I actually use that book as a former history teacher, I would use it to teach the book, at least, not the movie. The movie is much more rose-colored glasses.
Yes.
But the book was more indicative of a woman of the 1930s than necessarily a woman of the 1860s. And so you could use it as a means to teach both Reconstruction and also the lost cause as a whole. So it's indisputable that it's an important aspect of the literary canon. And it was actually Gone with the Wind that taught me what racism looks like in the sense of paternalism. I had never been introduced to that. So and even beyond that, it's a good story.
Yeah.
I can't read the last 50 pages though. I don't like sad endings, so I won't do it.
I agree.
But yeah. On my wall up here, I have a picture of Jane Austen.
Oh.
I read her every year, go through all of the books. I've been doing that for 3 years now.
Oh,
good
for you.
Do you have a favorite Jane Austen book?
Oh, goodness. I mean, you know, I'm moving right now. I used to have a whole bookshelf in this corner that was full of all her books, and I would go pull them out and show you if I could. But I mean, who can go wrong with Pride and Prejudice? Yeah, kind of a given. Trying to think of something more creative, but I don't know.
It changes every year for me.
Exactly.
Right now, it's Northanger Abbey.
Oh,
but
yes.
Traditionally, it is Pride and Prejudice. Okay, so do you believe Meghan Markle when she says that she did not know who Prince Harry was until after their trip to Africa?
Oh my gosh. No. Does anybody believe that? I mean, Carly, if you got a text message from a prince and you just didn't even know that he was a prince, but you connected with him on Snapchat, wouldn't you go and look him up like immediately? Like,
absolutely. I don't believe it for a minute. No. There's not a woman alive who hasn't. But then it's, you know, in Pride and Prejudice, they say a woman jumps from a conversation to marriage in a minute. These days, a woman jumps from a conversation to Google in a minute. Exactly.
We are the sleuths. So I don't believe that. And just knowing how she's acted in other circumstances, and yeah, no.
And one of my favorite things about Princess Diana is that she won Best Kept Guinea Pig at her boarding school, which is adorable. And I also feel like they're like, Diana, she's not doing well in school. She's not doing well in sports. You know, what do we do? They probably just made it up on the fly. And I love that she named them Muff and Puff. And
that is so.
It's so her, you know, it's just so, there's something sweet and endearing and loving about taking care of these small animals, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Muff and Puff. So sweet.
So cute. So, it's like
what is one of your favorite facts about Princess Diana?
You know, I love the fact that she was a ballerina when she was a teenager. I was a ballerina growing up, and so I feel a little bit of a connection with that. And it's sweet now to see Charlotte, Princess Charlotte, her granddaughter, in ballet lessons. So I've really loved. There's a few photos of Diana as a ballerina, but I think that is a sweet insight that is not very publicized generally. And I think she always wanted to be a prima ballerina, but she had different plans, and I don't think that she had the exact body type for it, and that was one of the things that she was told. So, but she did it anyways while she could. So,
And I actually recently read the Diana Chronicles. I was actually we're going to talk about the Diana Chronicles in a minute by Tina Brown, and she talked about her nascent career as a ballerina. She suggested that Diana just didn't have the concentration for it, and it was right around the time that she met Prince Charles. So what do you think as far as her ballet career? Do you think it was just that she met Prince Charles? Do you think she wasn't motivated? Do you think it was the thing with the body type?
you know, it's probably a combination of a lot of things, as it is with most of us. I know, because I was a ballerina for some time, and I ended up stopping because it is an extremely difficult sport, and I will call it a sport because I believe that it is. It's grueling. I mean, there were times I was in the studio 5-6 days a week for hours on end. So I think not only that pressure, you get to a point when about the age that Diana was when she stopped, but also she came from a very high profile family who wanted her to be, of course, with Charles. Ironically, you know that Charles dated her older sister.
Yeah.
That in terms of the expectations of her lifestyle and what they wanted for her to do, I think there was added pressure there from her family. She had a very broken background. I think there was a lot of pressure about who she would become, and you know, she worked as a kindergarten teacher for some time. So I think it's probably a combination of the level that she was at in ballet, the situation of meeting Charles and how her family related to her with that, and then also probably, like you said, just her concentration, her body type. Not, you know, ballerinas, there's all different types of body shapes with ballerinas, there should be, but at the time that wasn't necessarily how that was seen. So
Right. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but after reading the Diana Chronicles, I can't help but wonder, do you think Meghan Markle is deliberately emulating Princess Diana? So, and I come to this idea just from, like, I've seen herself frame herself as kind of an outsider in the royal family. She highlights like the media persecution and emotional vulnerabilities in interviews. Kind of like her "not many people have asked if I'm okay" moment, which made me think of like Diana's Panorama interview. There seems to be striking parallels. So even as some of her fashion choices appear to evoke Princess Diana's looks, am I reading too much into this, or do you think that there's an intentional effort to align Meghan's public image with Diana's legacy?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
100%. I'm sure that when Harry and Meghan went on their first date that was like 4 hours long or whatever, he mentioned something about his mom, because that's all that he really has, sadly. And I'm sure she just hooked into that, because who wouldn't? First of all, well, that's not true. There's a lot of us that probably wouldn't want to know more about it, but she probably leveraged that to see who he wanted her to be, and then ran with it. I mean, it is astounding to look at the fashion, look at her own story. Just last weekend, she posted something on Instagram, and she was wearing a Northwestern t-shirt, and she went to Northwestern, but it was one that Diana was spotted in. The strange thing about the shirt that she was wearing was that it was was it a waffle cut? I can't remember, but it was a different style that was the exact one that Diana had, but it was one sold by Nordstrom that was only released recently. So she had to have gone and purchased that. And if you're in that high level of media scrutiny, it's probably pretty important to think about the way that your image aligns, especially with the broader connections that you have in your husband's family. So to me, when you add it all up, it is clearly intentional that there is something that she recognizes. I mean, even the way that they talk to their children about Diana, the way that she talks about how she's like Diana. Did you ever watch the Harry and Meghan documentary?
Unfortunately. Yeah. I did.
I did.
I even made my husband watch it with me. It was pretty mean. Yeah, it was pretty rude, but Like, he makes me watch anime sometimes, so I think it kind of evened the scales a little bit.
There you go. I mean, I've gotten to the point now, Carly, where like sometimes I'll hear her voice and I'm just like, this isn't authentic. It's so hard to hear her talk sometimes because it just sounds like somebody who's, I don't know, trying.
It's secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah.
It's secondhand embarrassment because it's like, I don't know. I just don't know who her PR team is. I don't know who's in charge of that.
I think that if you've read that Hollywood Reportical article, Vanity Fair came out with a interesting deep dive back in January, really analyzing her role as a boss. And she is really living up to those Buckingham Palace rumors from years ago that she bullied her staff.
And more of that came out today. Like, right before our podcast, I got a notification about more bullying allegations. So she just cannot escape that. It's just too many. It's just an avalanche. It's like Blake Lively, you know, you hear whispers and then it becomes an avalanche.
Yes, exactly. And it's sure fascinating. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's snowballs. Well, that is all of the questions that I have for today. How can listeners connect with you, Hannah?
Yeah, well, I think one of the best things y'all could do is do the Princess Catherine 5-day challenge, which is on our website. You can just go to theswishmagazine.com and then you can find it in the tab up top. Other than that, and that's a free challenge, you just get an email every day. Other than that, I would love for y'all to read the magazine. You can find out more about that on the website, and you can follow us on Instagram at The Swish Magazine, and then on YouTube at The Swish.
And yes, her YouTube channel, like I said, very high. If you're tuned in, you probably like audio visual content. It's really good stuff, high polish. It's funny, it's interesting. It presents ideas through modern pop culture. And that's what we're all about, Pop Culture Cuties. So that is all for today. Be sure to tune in next Thursday for our Instagram live session or catch our latest episode on Spotify and YouTube. We can't wait to have you join us. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye, Hannah.
Bye. Thank you so much, Carly. Bye.
Make a wish for ones with a secret. And if I manifest best, guess I'll keep it. I'm sick, go with the flow, new flow, up phones one day. Thought ones, thoughts come, what's run, yes, I need it.